cheated. You haven't played the game right. I'll show you.
You've got a lot to learn about winning.
You always stop me when I'm having fun.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode in the Schools of Game Design. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this series was because in any hobby, if you go deep enough, you're bound to find terms that are exclusive to that hobby. Usually it's to describe concepts or categories in an efficient way. And it doesn't take long hanging out at board game hobby sites like Board Game Geek before you start hearing phrases thrown around like Ameritrash and Eurogames, and a lot of newer players wonder, what does that mean? Well, the answer to that is, it depends on who you ask. Board Game Geek itself, the website, has essentially split them to mean thematic games, Ameritrash, and strategy games, Eurogames. But the others may have a different idea about that. For me, there was a particular blog post on Board Game Geek by Oliver Kiley that broke down the 5 schools of game design that really resonated with me, and it kind of became my default way of seeing the genres. He takes the 5 schools of game design and defines what their core priority is and what tenets reinforce that priority. So in this series, I'm going to go over these schools of game design. FYI, I'm completely plagiarizing or borrowing from Oliver's post, who also compiled a lot of comments from other Board Game Geek users. So just to be clear here, I am standing on the shoulders of giants. So if you prefer to read the original source, which I highly recommend, it's superior to this. The link is in the description. Go read it. But if you prefer things given to you in a video format, stay tuned. Well, that brings us to today's topic, the first school of game design we're going to cover, Ameritrash. First, it should be noted that even though Amera is in the title, this does not necessarily mean that the game is American. While the term may have spawned from many of the games being made in America in the 80s, it's not exclusive to America. A great example of this is Games Workshop, credited with making many games that are definitely in the Ameritrash camp, and Games Workshop is a British company. Now, to address the trash part of the title, I'll simply say that Ameritrash was embraced and accepted by a group of lovers of the genre, and they wear it as a badge of honor. Think of it like how punk rock musicians embrace the word punk. Anyway, on to what the phrase means. So like I said, when many people think of the term Ameritrash, they may think it just means thematic game. But if we go with Oliver's definitions, it's much more than that. Instead, Ameritrash is all about drama. That's its core priority. It does involve theme, but it also involves conflict and uncertainty. The image I think of in my head that best defines this school is what's known as the stand-up dice roll. It's that moment when everything comes down to a single roll of the dice and the entire table stands up because they're all emotionally invested in the result of that roll. So how do you create that type of drama? We'll cover the 5 tenets that often fuel it. First, theme and narrative. Of course, theme does help drive drama. Instead of seeing things as simple cubes that you push around, Ameritrash invites you to immerse yourself in a world. These are not simple bits of wood and cardboard. You are commanding an army across the waste of some distant world. You are powering a mech, laying waste to some futuristic city. RPGs are a close cousin to Ameritrash, and dungeon crawling, which started in RPGs, has become board gamified and have found its way into board games. And there you envision yourself as a warrior looking for treasure. So in Ameritrash, mechanisms that break theme are discouraged. This is the genre where players may cry foul because the line of sight rules don't make sense according to the world it's in. For example, in a game like Kalis, where you can build walls of a castle out of cloth, gold, and food, no one questions it because everyone understands that rule exists for game balance and strategic considerations. In an Ameritrash game, rules like that don't fly. How are you building a wall out of food? Things like that break the immersion. I would, however, like to point out that Ameritrash games, though typically involve fictional themes like sci-fi and fantasy, don't necessarily have to. For example, Axis and Allies and the Republic of Rome are very much a non-fiction subject, and they are very much Ameritrash games. Anyway, why is all of this important? Because if you can imagine yourself in a role in a living, breathing world, the drama and tension are heightened. Second tenet, conflict and interaction. Why? Conflict is dramatic. So Ameritrash games often have a ton of it. Themes you rarely see in an Ameritrash game. Selling cotton, opening a new coffee shop, settling down and farming that new prairie that opened up next door. No, while there may be a way to make those things interesting, it's hard for that to match the drama of full-blown conflict. Converting one cube to two red cubes might have its challenges, but going head to head against the unpredictability of your friend's mind is more dramatic. That interaction is necessary. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a cooperative Ameritrash game. Arkham Horror is a classic Ameritrash game, but the conflict is against Lovecraftian horrors generated by portals into unspeakable dimensions. The conflict is still there. Third tenet, uncertainty, luck, and chaos. Imagine a battle in a game where you know the results before you step into the space. A very simplified version of this would be, say, a rook taking a pawn in chess. No question, the rook's taking the pawn. Now imagine you step into a space and you are not certain of the result. You have to roll dice, or maybe you have to flip some cards. Maybe your opponent has a hand of cards that you can't see that could turn things around. Now things are tense. You may have a sense of the odds of winning a battle, but it's never 100%. And that sense of not knowing exactly how things will turn out creates drama. Whether you come away the victor or not is not certain until those dice hit the table. It sums your fate into a single, definitive moment. That creates drama. It also allows for the unexpected to happen. If you've played an Ameritrash game, you probably have stories of the time an entire battalion of soldiers or a fleet of spaceships won up against a far inferior force, and through the capriciousness of the dice, that lone warrior fended off that entire force. That unpredictability creates drama and creates memorable moments. When the entire table is cheering on that lone soldier because it is rolling a hot streak and might actually fend off an army 10 times its size, you're probably playing an Ameritrash game. Fourth tenet, epicness and victory. Ameritrash gamers tend to look for the epic. This makes sense. It's hard to get too emotionally invested in the outcome of a 20-minute filler. But go into battle with a fleet of ships that you've spent the better part of 4 hours putting together, the stakes are significantly raised. The emotional investment is higher. The dramatic tension is heightened. Additionally, it's heightened even more when the game gives a definitive conclusion. Ameritrash games don't typically just dole out points willy-nilly. Victories can be sudden and swift, and so can defeat. Few schools of game design embrace the idea of player elimination quite like an Ameritrash game. When the stakes are high, so is the drama. The fifth and final tenet, bits, chrome, and immersion. A lot of this is represented in the rules of a game. Many of the schools of game design are looking to get rid of extraneous rules. But Ameritrash games kind of revel in the edge cases. Maybe there's a rule that allows you to take your tiny fighter into the core of an opponent's massive massacre moon and drop a wrench down its laundry chute to blow it up. But the odds of it happening are slim. So it's not something you see or even attempt every game. But when it does happen, it's exciting. You're glad that those rules exist for those moments. Some of those rules are just there to drive the theme home. If I want to try and take on the giant robot, as reckless as that may be, I should be able to try. Where are the rules for that? Ameritrash games don't tend to shy away from adding periphery rules to drive home a theme. So to sum it all up, Ameritrash games are about getting together with your friends on a long Sunday afternoon and playing some grandiose and epic game, cheering on the underdog, laughing at another's unfortunate luck, immersing yourself in another world, fighting your friends, and probably rolling buckets of dice. That is Ameritrash. Now you're free to go off and debate what actually fits into that genre. To end this video, though, I will shout out 4 games that I think kind of sum up Ameritrash well. 4 because I have 4 corners of a screen. For me, the poster child of Ameritrash, the one that comes to mind immediately, is Twilight Imperium, currently on 4th edition. Uh, Another one I could recommend, Cosmic Encounter. This is a lot shorter. This is also probably one of the first examples of the genre, but this is player-driven chaos to the max. If sci-fi is not your thing, I have 2 other recommendations for you. And while I have not played these, I see them consistently at the top of list of recommendations for Ameritrash. Furia Dracula, currently on the 4th edition, I believe. This is one versus many. A group of players is chasing down Dracula across Victorian Europe. And if you want something in the fantasy genre or dungeon crawl, a more modern version of it is Warhammer Quest: Silver Tower, published by the aforementioned Games Workshop. And you know what? If you like Star Wars, get Star Wars Rebellion. I like that game. It's a good game. I'm giving you 5. Anyways, that's it for today as we look at Ameritrash. Come back for the next video. We will look at German family games. If this interests you at all, I ask that you subscribe if you like, so you can get notified when the next video comes out. Possibly hit the like button. But if you disagree with me, as I'm sure you do, put it in the comments below. Put your favorite Ameritrash games in the comments below. Tell me where I'm wrong. Anyways, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.